Okay, so we should be all good to go now to get Michaela Wilkes in for our candidate conversations. So if you're new to this series, stick around. We've got someone very exciting coming to talk about her race for Congress. You might be asking, why am I wearing a suit? Well, it's because shortly after this interview, I will be going to a prom over Zoom, which is not the way that I expected to go to prom, but you know what? It's sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles. So stick around for just a little bit, and in just a moment, we will have Michaela Wilkes here to talk to us. So let's see if she's in and hanging out. Okay. Don't see it yet, but hopefully we can get her in just a moment. Once Michaela is on, we are going to ask her about her race for Congress in Maryland's 5th District. Really interesting race where Michaela is running to take down an incumbent who is actually the second most powerful Democrat in the country, which is huge. And if she wins, it would be a huge win pickup for progressives. So excited to see if she can win. That district is kind of the western Chesapeake Bay kind of area of Maryland a little bit. She's looking to take down Steny Hoyer. So we will see if we can get her in, and hopefully we can very soon. So let's see. Not seeing her yet, so hopefully we can get her in pretty soon. Okay, so I'm hearing that she might have some technical issues, so I will come back hopefully once we get confirmed. Maybe I'm going to leave. So until we get that confirmation, I'm just gonna kind of say hi, talk about everything that we have going on. We're bringing in congressional candidates. We're bringing in 2 of them a week, and we're going to be talking to them about who they are, what their race is, why they're running, and basically just kind of talking to them and trying to learn about them and who they are. I'm very excited to bring them in. This one that we are bringing in is Michaela Wilkes. She's running for Congress in Maryland, in the western Chesapeake Bay, and hopefully we can bring her in just a moment. Apparently she's having some technical difficulties, so I might... Oh, we got her! So waiting for her to join in, and then we'll start asking her a couple questions.
Hi.
Hello!
Hi.
I'm so glad that we could get you in. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. I'm all dressed up. I'm going to a prom over Zoom after we... Oh, are you still there? Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
There we are.
Yes.
I'm all dressed up, going to prom on Zoom in a little bit. Very excited for that. But I'm even more excited to talk to you and learn about your race and why you're running and about what's the big difference between your opponents. So why don't we just kind of start off with, why don't you tell us who you are and why you're running and where you're running for?
Yeah. So I'm Michaela Wilkes, and I'm running for Congress to represent Maryland's 5th Congressional District. I'm the primary challenger of Steny Hoyer, the #2 most powerful Democrat in the House, next to Nancy Pelosi. And I'm running for Congress because regular people deserve to be represented by regular people. And we deserve to have people in Congress with lived experiences to understand the way that policy affects us all. I wasn't always interested in politics. I did not trust politicians because I thought they were all liars and criminals, which some of them are.
Yeah.
But it was basically probably I would say 2014 was a pivotal moment in time for me. You know, I saw early on how the criminal justice system treated people. Just when I was in high school and my aunt died in September 11th, she was in the Pentagon.
Mm.
And I was grieving and I was pretty much like suffering from depression in retrospect. And my school administration and everyone, you know, they knew what was going on, but their solution to it was, well, we understand what you're going through, but you just need to stop or we're going to lock you up. So pretty much for every one day of school I missed, I got 10 days in a juvenile detention facility. So at a very young age, I saw that our criminal justice system was focused on incarceration rather than actually helping people. And so when we fast forward to 2014, which was a really pivotal moment in my life, where I decided I was going to run for Congress one day, was when I got incarcerated for being in traffic debt, essentially, for driving on a suspended license, for the inability to pay tickets. It was the same year that I was suffering from a pulmonary embolism and had blood clots behind each of my knees. I was diagnosed with deep vein thrombosis, and my insurance company told me they weren't going to pay for it. And so it was around that time that I decided to look into politics, look into my representative, and I started looking into Steny Hoyer, and I started to see all of the massive amounts of money that he takes from all these special interests. And I started to look into, you know, how he was against you know, policies that would help me, like criminal justice reform would have probably saved me from going to jail for living in poverty. A universal healthcare system that probably would have saved me sooner, and I wouldn't have had to be hospitalized for 2 weeks. So I'm really deciding to run against Steny Hoyer because now more than ever we need progressive voices in office. And we needed it before the pandemic, but I think that now this pandemic is making it evident that we absolutely need to get the corporate Democrats and Republicans out of Congress and elect more progressive that are going to fight for us both now during COVID and far after.
So let's talk about the coronavirus pandemic. I got tested today. I'm very lucky to be in a city where testing is readily available, but there's tons and tons of people in cities across the country who are not able to get testing. And if they got the disease, they wouldn't be able to afford treatment for it. What should the government be doing to help people afford treatment for coronavirus and also to avoid more people getting it?
I think right now, and I think that this would be a really good step to moving towards Medicare for all. But I think that right now, Medicare needs to be expanded to every single person that does not have health insurance or every single person that can afford the health insurance that they have, to make sure that everyone is covered. And I think that this would lead us to a single payer system because I think that this should be a stepping stone to get to that point. In order to not spread the virus anymore, I think that people need to stay home. I think that governors need to, you know, listen to the CDC and the WHO and not, you know, open up their states because, you know, I feel like the governors that have opened up their states are more focused on, you know, the economy. But how bad is the economy going to fail if everyone in your state is dead, or if the majority of people in your state are dead or are sick? I think we need to be focused on helping people at this point by making, you know, bigger stimulus packages that are monthly, that cater to regular people and small businesses, that give healthcare workers and other essential workers the proper PPE so that they can do their jobs efficiently. It just needs to be a lot done that has not been done. And the upsetting fact is that it's not being done because our current political system is not centered around people. It's centered around corporations and the wealthy.
Sorry.
Okay.
So you're sorry, you're breaking up. I'm like trying to make you're running in Maryland's 5th district, which is kind of the Western Chesapeake Bay. Is that kind of how you describe it?
Yes.
And obviously, like you said, your district is represented by the second most powerful Democrat in the House, one of the most powerful people in the country. What would be the biggest difference between you leading your district and working in Congress and Steny Hoyer?
The biggest difference is that I'm not beholden to corporate interest and he is. And I think it just comes down to that. Because when you're not beholden to those corporate interests, then you can create policy and you can support legislation that puts people first. But when you're beholden to those corporate interests, they're going to want a return on their investment. And unfortunately, that is the type of representative that Steny Hoyer is.
Would you say that Steny Hoyer, as a representative of your district, has forgotten your district and forgotten the regular people who live there?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what are the big, like the really big, broad policies that you would be pushing for that Steny Hoyer refuses to fight for? And how would they help your district?
Yeah, so I would fight for universal health care, which Medicare for all, which would ensure that everyone is covered, and it ensures that we have a health care system and not a health insurance system, and it treats health care as a human right. I also support a Green New Deal, which he does not, which would bring us to 100% renewable energy, and it would make our world, it would be habitable for generations to come. I have 2 children, and, I want them to grow up in a world that they can survive in. And it would definitely help out our district because the Green New Deal brings jobs. It brings training. It brings overhauling the public transportation system, which in our district is a huge issue. We're about 20 minutes outside of DC, and it takes us maybe an hour or 2 to get to work. And so because there is the public transportation system really sucks in our district. I would also enact an affordable housing policy, a homes guarantee to make sure that, people are able to survive without having to live on the streets. And our plan for that is to actually invest federal funds into local counties and municipalities to build 12 million public social housing units throughout the country. And also fully funding the Section. Yes, and also fully funding the Section 8 program. And Steny Hoyer, actually a sitting member in Congress, does not even have a housing platform on his website. There is no proposed housing legislation.
So these are big policies. These are huge things that would bring about sweeping changes to people all across the country. The big question that I get asked a lot when I talk about these kinds of big policies is a really simple one. How are we going to pay for it? So how are we going to pay for it?
Well, for one, we need to change the tax code so that people are paying their fair share of taxes. When I say that, I mean the ultra wealthy need to pay their fair share in taxes. But I think also we need to reroute some of the money that we're already spending that isn't benefiting our communities, like cutting our defense spending, because we just passed the highest defense budget in history a few months ago, and just a fraction of that would have covered millions of people's college tuition. We could have had Medicare for all. We could have had a universal school lunch program if we would have cut our defense spending back then. But it's all about, changing the tax code and rerouting the money that we're spending that is not coming into our communities.
So your opponent, Steny Hoyer, has obviously got a lot of money. He's a sitting member of Congress. He is beholden to a lot of those different special interests. He's going to throw up a lot of money in this primary challenge. How do you plan to unite the people of your district and sway them over to your side, even in the face of a huge, huge financial opponent?
Yeah, I think that just speaking truth to power to these issues and letting people know how Steny Hoyer really is, and just telling them about our plans and sharing our stories and keeping the community involved. Because one of the complaints that most people in our district have is that Congressman Hoyer isn't really accessible, and there's a lot of needing to reach out to him on a one-on-one basis instead of him just enacting legislation or trying to push for legislation to help people with these issues. But I think that's what it's going to take. And, as unfortunate as this pandemic is, it's really pushing people further to the left. And people in our district are looking for more than just name recognition. People want results. People want answers. People want to know, what are you going to do to help us right now? And so that's what we're offering them, because this isn't going to go away. And pandemic aside, a lot of us are maybe like in shock because we've never been through anything like this, like, wondering what's going to happen if I don't pay my rent, wondering, how am I going to eat next month, how am I going to keep my lights on when the CARES Act expires. But for so many people, this is just another day to them, like pandemic or not. This is life for them. And so I really think that it's shedding light on, why we need a more progressive person in office.
So if you live in the Western Chesapeake Bay, you can obviously vote for you. And I'm sure that there was plenty of door knocking that was happening, but not really anymore. So if you live in the Western Chesapeake Bay, or if you don't, how can people get involved in your race, and why should people get involved in your race?
Well, if anyone would like to get involved in our race, we phone bank every single day, Monday through Sunday. We have multiple shifts each day. It's really fun, and we make it really easy for everyone that's involved. But I think that people should get involved in our race, because now more than ever, we need progressive voices in Congress. And what we fight for here in Maryland isn't just going to help Marylanders. It's going to help people all across the nation. And so we really all need to stick together and make sure that we all are taken care of, and that we're fighting not just, helping out in my race, but other progressives who still have primaries come up, go out and help them too, because it's going to take a lot of us to get in to actually make transformative change.
And we're bringing up lots of those different primary challengers here on Candidate Conversations, and there's also tons of different ways that you can find out about them online. How do we get more young people excited, involved in politics, and how do we bring young people, and when I say young people, I don't just mean like 18 to 25, but like if you're 15, how can you get involved, and why? Why should you want to get involved?
Well, because when you're young, your future depends on it. I don't think I'm that old. I'm 29. But
I don't think you're that old either.
I feel old sometimes. But anyways, that's another story. But yeah, I think that more young people should be involved in politics, because ultimately your future depends on it. Like for today is going to affect you in the future. Like, especially when we talk about climate change. Like to enact the Green New Deal. If we don't do something right now to mitigate the effects of climate change, that's going to affect, your life as you get older. And so I think a lot of more young people should be enthusiastic about politics, because everything is political. You might not realize it yet for some, but eventually you realize that everything in our lives are political.
So what's the quickest way, if I'm just like so inspired by you right now, which I am, what's the fastest way that I can get involved in your race? What can I do right now to support you?
The fastest
Can I sign up for
is,
phone banking shifts right now?
Yes, you absolutely can.
Awesome.
And we will have a phone banking shift tomorrow. So
Perfect.
You definitely can.
Where do we go?
You can hit us up, Michaela2020.com, and hit the volunteer tab.
Perfect. So any parting words, any other things that you want to get off your chest?
I would just like to say that I hope that everyone is just staying safe at this time. I hope that everyone is able to take care of their mental health at this time. I know it's taken a toll on a lot of us, to be home and to feel alone, and the anxiety. I almost had an anxiety attack just going to the mailbox. So, I know it's taking a toll on everyone, but just take it day by day. Stay home. If not for yourself, then stay home for someone else.
These are some super weird times, some super stressful times, and hopefully we can get some good people in Congress as a result of it, and hopefully we can galvanize people to get involved, and put people like you, Michaela, we can put you in office, and we can oust politicians that are beholden to special interests like Steny Hoyer. So if you live in the Western Chesapeake Bay, you can vote for Michaela, but even if you don't, you can get involved in her race by going to Michaela 2020, MCKAYLA 2020.com, correct? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, and hitting the volunteer tab. And do some phone banking, get involved. If you're over 18, you can donate to political races. So yeah, get involved, get excited. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Have fun at your prom.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.